How do I meet the activity levels that my manager is demanding and not turn my buyers off with spam? It is a question that comes up for me every week with sellers. And it's also a question that managers are struggling with as well, the competing demands of quality over quantity. Now, before we talked about the fact that buyers are going to ignore relevant information. 90% of B2B buyers will ignore your spam, will ignore your irrelevant automated sequences. So you're really just kind of training them to ignore you. When automation is done poorly, it's just scaling crap. When most of the time, we're talking about ourselves, we're talking about our features and our benefits, thinking that this is something that they're interested in. So to meet the demands of buyers and managers who need activity level, one of the first things that I would advise you to do is to start learning how to prioritize your time. What I mean by that is focusing on your high fit, high intent accounts first. Sometimes we get into this mode of, I'm just going to load all of these accounts into this sequence so that my manager can see the activity levels and I can go and do something else. Instead, what I would recommend that you do is have high quality conversations with your best fit companies. This way, you can take your messaging and what you have learned from those conversations to put into some messaging for your sequences and your automations for maybe some of the lower fit companies. Because you've talked with others like them and understood the challenges that they have, and you've been able to offer those resources that give them a new insight or a benchmark that they didn't have before, then you know what is actually on the mind of the people that you're trying to reach before you start spamming them a whole bunch. So do the work first up front of understanding what's going on, asking those relevant questions, and offering some insights into what they didn't know before is a great way to start getting the quality down first so that you can then scale it. The other thing that I recommend for people when you prioritize your time and focus on your best fit accounts first, the next thing that I also then recommend to them is having an organized sort of matrix that you can use where you say, for example, group your accounts by industry first, and then group your accounts from industry and then down into the specific roles so that you can create custom messaging for the industry and for the role of the person, and that you can then scale that to the other contacts within that. So think of it as chunking. You're chunking your accounts by high fit, high intent. Then you're chunking them by industry. Then you're chunking it even further down by the role that they're in so that you can then develop your messaging for that so it's relevant to each particular tier. You're getting the quality as well as scaling it for quantity. Now, there's one other thing that I would have you do, and that is to make sure you have your own dashboards for what your activity levels are and what your conversion rates are. Yes, you need to have enough activity in order for you to be able to have data to be able to benchmark. But at the end of the day, you're going to burn yourself out if all you're doing is keep throwing messages out there in the hopes that something is going to stick. You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to burn your buyers out. And so having a pace in which you are every day consistently doing the activity levels instead of trying to cram it all in one day or one afternoon, instead try to give yourself blocks of 45 minutes or 30 minutes to start with where you're doing these activities consistently. Activity levels happen not because you've done a sprint, but because you run a marathon. So that's the best way to get those levels up while also maintaining the quality of outreach that your buyers demand.